Hi there, everyone. Happy to have you with us. It is 1 o'clock, and we welcome you to the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We are live and interactive today, so by all means, say hello, send us in your questions and comments. Let us know where you're watching from today. We are happy to have you. My co-host, Edgar Zazueta, ACSA's Senior Director of Policy and Governmental Relations. I'm Alikhan, ACSA's Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Edgar, how are you today?
Good, Naj. Good to see you. It's funny how this works out. This has quickly become, one of my favorite parts of the week. I know there's always a little bit of stress involved thinking about what we're going to put before our members and viewers, and just make sure that it's something that can be of value. But I get excited every week when we see the comments and people messaging us after the show. So I'm glad we've been able to build a little virtual community here every week.
I was thinking the exact same thing yesterday, is that how much I enjoy this show. It is the highlight of the week, and having our members jump in and talk to us back and forth. It's a lot of fun. So folks, again, questions, comments, tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to have you here on the show. Edgar, a few things we want to make sure we get to today. The first one, we have a number of counties now that are coming off of the purple piece of that color-coded list. They are getting themselves back into eligibility to reopen schools, but it's not that simple. You're hearing from the Capitol, you're hearing from CDE, the legislature. What are you hearing also district-wise about some of these counties now moving towards eligibility?
Yeah, on one respect, it's an exciting time. I mean, this whole notion of reopening schools, I mean, it's felt so theoretical, and obviously it's going to be the focus of our conversation today with some of our members that are living this. But now, every week, it seems like we have more and more counties that are now eligible to reopen. And it started initially the trend was in some of our less populous areas in California. Now we're quickly seeing counties, some bigger counties with higher populations also being eligible to reopen. I think the big question now, and kind of one of the reasons we're having today's conversation about lessons learned from reopening for those that were able to either start with in-person instruction or have been able to move to it, is because there's more attention on these issues now. Now, the one thing that our members are also learning, there's a distinction between being eligible to open for in-person instruction versus actually making that a reality. In some counties, the county has the jurisdiction, the discretion to go a little bit slower, to not necessarily give the green light. So there's some conversations that are happening in some parts of the state. And in some counties you're seeing, and this was something we talked about last week in San Diego, that you have some districts that are able to open up while others are going a little bit slowly. And usually those are due to a couple of reasons. One, it's either that the COVID rates, even though we look at all of these metrics from a county perspective, at the end of the day, this also you look at what is the COVID, the spread of COVID in particular communities. So that's one issue. And another issue is our discussions with our labor groups, with our teachers, with our other employees, in terms of their willingness to also come back. All this to say, and I'll kind of leave it here, one of the major issues that is becoming a headline, and I think it's going to take more of our attention, is what is being done on the testing front, on the COVID testing front. And I know there's some efforts from the state, some counties are trying to take the lead in this area, but more and more attention is focusing on this whole area of COVID testing.
We want to say hello to a lot of people that have already joined us today. Gavin, Lori Emmington coming from right around the corner at Folsom Cordova Unified, and not the only person from Folsom Cordova Unified with us today. Alicia is also with us today. We've got, my goodness, Dana, Mike, Deborah, good to see all of you. Barbara, good to see you too. I just saw something, Edgar, and we're going to keep with the news, so just give me a moment here. Elizabeth Sanchez has just written from Connecticut. So, Elizabeth, if you are watching from Connecticut, please drop us another comment, because I don't know, Edgar, we haven't had anybody jump in and say they're from another state or another country on this show. But if we do have somebody watching from Connecticut, That means you and I are just blowing up as far as
I guess we've gone national, right? We'll try not to let it get to our heads there.
Exactly. And Muhammad is back on. And Muhammad, we were commenting about you last week, and you didn't even get onto the show. So we'll say hello to you. A couple other things, Edgar. And I'm going to have Gianna throw this up for us. There is a survey that CDE is doing, and Gianna is going to go ahead and pop this link up onto the chat. It's a survey on local COVID-19 testing strategies to inform some of the work over at CDE. So Gianna is going to go ahead and put that link up there. It's about a 10-minute survey, but CDE asking for your help. Apparently, Elizabeth Sanchez is communicating to us from Connecticut. So yes, we have made our way all the way to the East Coast. Another one, Edgar, and I know you're going to talk about testing strategies. In fact, you know what? Let's talk about that. Edgar, you had some updates on testing strategies as well.
Yeah, the governor's office has reached out to ACSA and some other of our partners statewide of them trying to take some more leadership and some ownership around this issue of COVID testing specifically in schools. And one of the underlying objectives that the governor has announced, and him and his administration are trying to reach, is to essentially double the capacity of testing. And a big portion of that is now, how are we going to focus that in schools? So they're putting together a work group involving ACSA, involving some of our other partners, trying to think through. They've entered into some contracts with some labs, with some firms that are not only going to make testing more accessible, but the idea is also that those results would be much more timely, that you'd get results back in 24, 48 hours to actually make it meaningful. So we're deep into this. Hopefully we'll have more to announce in weeks to come in terms of where some of those strategies can support things that our members frankly are already doing in some communities. Some counties are taking the lead in this and actually looking at ways to support their schools when it comes to testing. We heard from LA and Superintendent Buettner some weeks back. Obviously, they made a lot of headlines. So again, I think now that we have more schools eligible to reopen, the whole issue of how do we test not only our students, employees, other stakeholders is going to be much more prominent.
And folks, we've got our great member, Brett Tilley, who's joined in. Susanna Vargas has joined in. Edith Jordan McCormick has joined in. So say hello. Keep saying hello to us. One other thing, Edgar, and I have some feedback from educators, and I think this is important. SPI Tony Thurmond this week announced launching the Education to End Hate initiative to combat bias, bigotry, and racism. It has just among this entire initiative, educator training grants, virtual classroom series, roundtable with leaders. And I want to bring this up because I've heard from educators that they want to have these conversations about social issues and racial injustice, Black Lives Matter, all of that. But they don't, A, have the curriculum to do it, and B, they don't know what the support is like from their site administrators, from district administrators, even from their community. So it seems to me like CDE is recognizing some of this, and maybe this is that first step towards being able to have those types of conversations. What do you think about being able to have these types of conversations?
Yeah, I think Superintendent Thurmond and CDE deserves a lot of credit here, because I think in the days after the George Floyd killing and incidents, everybody rushed to say the right thing, right? And this is a conversation we had many times. And at ACSA and some of our other partners, we really tried to think about, it's one thing to put out your statement. It's another thing to say the right thing, but what are we actually going to do in action? And I think now trying to give some of the educators some specific tools to make some progress, to take some steps in this area, I think is really important. So that's something that I know, like, as you referenced, our members wanted, and kudos to Superintendent Thurmond for moving in this direction.
Folks, please be sure, if you're on YouTube, to subscribe to the ACSA platform, to the ACSA channel. Also, if you're on Facebook, please like our video. Let's get it out to more people. So we have wondered what it's going to be like to have school going on campus and have students back on campus. It's a topic that so many people are discussing and really wondering about, especially those districts that haven't reached that point yet. So we're going to tackle that issue today about some of the successes and challenges. Joining us today, we have two district administrators from the state. Joey Adame is the superintendent from Los Molinos Unified, and Amy Alzina is the superintendent and principal over at the Cold Springs Elementary School District in Montecito. Amy, I'm going to get to you first because yesterday was the very first day back for students on your campus. So I would like to know, and I think everybody would like to know, successes and challenges and experiences through that first day. And you're still smiling midway through day number 2. So where are we at? Give us the story.
We are smiling and pure joy, still pure joy, running off of adrenaline right now. But, I think the successes is just watching our community come together. We were preparing for reentry in person and beginning in June. And then we had a shift on July 17th when the governor had us all into remote learning. And we're in the purple zone, so we had to apply for the waiver, but all along applying and just really working together as a community to make this happen. It wasn't in our budgets, so knowing that we had to really call upon our parents for things like shade structures and mobile desks and our community partners, our businesses, our realtors, village properties came in and bought a huge industrial tent for us and the Easter, some outdoor easels and whiteboards, and really that made it possible for us to re-enter. And then we had on Saturday a parent beautification day. We scrubbed chairs, we painted, we worked together. I had 40 parents on our campus wearing masks, setting up these shade structures for our students to re-enter on Tuesday. And when they entered, I will tell you, seeing the joy and love on our students' faces made it all worth it, because this is where we're working for. I mean, we've been out of school for 6 months. 6 months. Our parents are just eager to get their kids back in through the doors. So yesterday, my teachers just really, and staff exceeded my expectations 100-fold. They really hit it out of the ballpark. And I was on adrenaline high. And then I got a call from public health, super sweet, saying, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. You're doing amazing work. A disgruntled community member called and is saying that, you haven't given them a copy of the waiver and they asked for it. And of course, that's not true. And I said, I have nothing to hide. Let's post it on our website. Anybody can view our waiver. But, in these times of leadership, those are challenges, right? People are going to hit us hard because either they don't want to see you succeed and they want failure, or they're scared. And for whatever that is, they can have a tendency to steal our joy and to not let them steal our joy and to keep moving forward, because that's what's best for kids. And so that's what we're doing. And day 2 was a success, and we're doing great.
Well, I have to say, Amy's enthusiasm and excitement is contagious, right? And as obviously representing ACSA and also as a parent, right? It just gives us hope in terms of seeing other communities being able to cross that step and get kids back into the classroom. Joy, let's turn to you. Obviously, different part of the state. You guys, a little bit different story on how you got to in-person instruction. Maybe give us a little bit of the context, since your community started there, but kind of give us the lay of the land. Different situation. Obviously, the COVID situation was a little bit different, but nonetheless, I mean, in terms of you folks were really the pioneers. When most people in the state were started in distance learning, you were one of the few who were able to open up doors. So tell us what's going on in your community.
Sure. So during the months of July and August, Tehama County was not on the watch list. And so we had the ability to be able to reopen before that, before Tehama County got on the watch list. So that worked in our favor. And Tehama County Office of Education has been incredible as far as leading the charge with holding meetings with Tehama County Public Health, and superintendents met with them on a weekly basis. And that gave us a lot of good information to share with our community, our school board, our our unions, as well as parents and so on. So we've been open since August 12th. It's kind of crazy that we've been open that long. And I have to tell you, it's been just incredible to be around the kids and just have some normalcy to this thing, especially with the wildfires and so on. So we're just north of Chico. And so a lot of the smoke has impacted us as well. So we're about 75% of our students are in person and about 25% are distance learners. So our board has been remarkable in working with us, and a couple of our board members served on our task force, which I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But overall, we've been fortunate that we've been able to stay open that long. We haven't had any positive cases so far, so that's been remarkable in itself. And several districts throughout California have had situations where they're either positive cases or people getting tested and they come back negative. And so I feel fortunate that we are where we are right now.
Well, let me ask both of you this question, and Amy, we'll start with you. Walk us through what your respective school looks like right now. In Joey's case, schools, what that looks like right now. And what does that experience seem like for not just the students and the teachers, but just, the parents and guardians, everybody as far as the school community? Amy, we'll start with you.
Well, we have 90% of our students that are in person. 10% have chose remote learning, and we've asked that they commit to that until our winter break and then reassess at that time. And so when parents drop off in the front, it's a staggered drop-off time between 8 and 8:30. And they're greeted by me and 2 other staff members. We have music playing. It's a joyful experience. Normally, I meet with the whole student body in an assembly every morning, but we can't do that now. So this is my opportunity to connect with every student. And I take their temperature upon arrival and check for screenings and before they enter the gates. Once they enter the gates, they go directly to their classroom where they wash their hands with soap and water immediately, singing the happy birthday song twice, right? And our TK through first grade students, they have a half day. So their day starts at 8:25 till noon. So they have 215 minutes of daily in-person instruction versus second through sixth grade receive half day of instruction 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week as a full day of instruction. So it's from 8 to 12:10, 4 days a week, and then 1 day from 8 to 3 o'clock. And the reason for the modified schedule is to ensure that we're meeting both the needs of our in-person students and our remote learning students. So in the afternoon, our teachers are co-teaching, and the grade level teams are remote learning students. And so to ensure that all students are getting an exceptional education, because those 10% are just as important to us as those 90%. And that's the reason for that schedule. And where I have a larger cohort of students at one grade level, I've actually identified one teacher to meet the needs of those students in traditional remote learning, which, as you know, we did an exceptional job with remote learning. But we know that's not meeting the social emotional needs of our students as in-person does. And we see that right now when I'm walking into the classroom and our teachers are really, really targeting our students' emotional needs and connections with one another. So what it really means is, when our parents are happy, and I'm out there, right before I came in here, I was out there at pickup, and I'm there escorting the students to their parents as they pick up, and they're just super excited to see their child happy. Again, their child has been home for 6 months in front of a screen. And I see it as our students are walking. I mean, I had such a felt like our students are fit. I started off as a PE teacher, and to see our students coming back, I'm like, okay, we got to get moving here, folks. We got to be walking through our campus, and to see our students engaging, to see our families happy again is really, I think, the best that we can do as educators in healing through this time of crisis, because, this is challenging for everyone. So if we can love their child, they know that their child's in good hands.
Well, I think we struck on a good subject here today, because I know we're getting rapid fire with a ton of questions. So we're going to try to get to as many of them. Joey, Angela asked a question that was similar to something I was going to bring up. So much attention around the state on the buy-in level in terms of our teacher partners, obviously our educators, and getting into the classroom. And I know in some cases there's been some concerns. Angela takes a slightly different approach. And the question is, how are the teachers holding up in terms of doing both in-person and distance learning and structure, and obviously worried about teacher fatigue? So might just give us the lay of the land of just one, how your teachers
Sure.
about the reopening, and then how are they actually doing it now?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the answer to that question first. So we decided to go with 2 minimum days a week, and that is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And our teachers meet with distance learners during that time where they come in and get some extra help if they need it. Our teachers are phenomenal, even our classified staff. We are doing the zooming in during live instruction, and that's working out very, very well right now. We went with an Apple product and a tripod with a microphone to be able to do a smooth transition over that. And so far, as far as fatigue, I think we all have fatigue right now, to be honest, but it's working out well. Those 2 minimum days and then every other Wednesday for professional development has been critical for teachers to have that time to prep their lessons, to meet with those kiddos and just making it work. As far as the day-to-day, I'm going to run you through basically a morning, and I'll kind of snapshot it for you a little bit. It's very systematic with us. So we do temperature checks when the kids get on the bus. Before they get on the bus to get their temperature, we have somebody riding with a bus driver, and that's working out real well. We also have one point of entry to all of our schools, so we're K-12, and we do temperature checks there as well. Any student that has over 100 degree temperature has to stay home for 3 days, and we recommend testing. All staff and students have to wear masks. And I tell you, that's been a challenge in itself, just trying to reinforce that on a daily basis. But so far, it's working real well. We haven't had too many issues with students being out of compliance. Parents that come to the school have to get their temperature checked. They also have to wear a mask. We have those available for them as well. And just the whole contact tracing of it all it's just part of our plan, and we're sticking to it 100%. I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to stay open this long.
Let me ask both of you, scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not so great, 5 being really great, because we have a question that came in from Paula. How are your youngest students doing with social distancing? We had a very similar question come in from Michael Allen on YouTube. Are schools working to maintain 6 feet distancing in classrooms? If so, how are you making that work with current staffing levels? All right, so scale of 1 to 5. Amy, give us a number. Joey, give us a number. Where are we at?
I'm going to say a 4+. I've been in, and I only say that, and I could even say maybe even a 5, because I feel like it's the organization and the structure that every student has their own set of objects. Every student has their own desk in the classroom, their own desk outside, because we have outside classrooms as well. And so we worked really hard to create 2 classrooms for every single class. And because of that, students then are doing an exceptional job, staying exactly where they need to go, what they need to do. The structure of the day is very structured, very organized. The play cohorts, every student goes to their own group when they own section on the playground that they're designated to go every single day. Again, it's day 2, but that was a concern. How's this going to go? Day one, again, teachers hit it out of the ballpark. Students hit it out of the ballpark. They're eager to learn and listen and follow directions. I think our students follow directions sometimes better than the adults.
So there's a couple of things I want to touch on this particular question. I think and I'm going to separate it by K-8 and then high school. What I found is that it's much easier at the K-8 level to create social distancing because you can cohort much easier. At the high school level, it becomes more difficult because of the courses and intermingling the different grade levels. So if I was to put a number on it, I think K8 would probably be like a 4 or 5. High school, maybe a 2+. It's just really difficult to social distance at the high school level, but it's working for us right now. And I think it's separated also by eating times, recess. So we do our best to social distance and cohort during those times to minimize the connection. I mean, the social interaction with students. So I would say that social distancing is probably one of the most difficult things to implement when you're going in person, just because of the different grade levels.
And this question to both of you, and you guys can both touch on it. We have a couple questions, one from Yuri, one from Mohammed. This has been a consistent theme over the last previous week's conversation, social emotional learning. So Yuri wants to know if there's any specific programs that you're using to meet the emotional needs of children. I think Mohammed had the question, if you have any tips for those that are obviously thinking about this in terms of when students return, how are you meeting those needs of both students and staff?
So last year, a little bit about Cold Spring is that we went had the Thomas Fire and the Montecito debris flow, and so we focused a lot on the social emotional learning component for our students and making sure that we're really targeting the needs of each individual student. And so we created our own program using the CASEL standards and looking at the curriculum that they had online, and really trying to integrate that into the classroom through project-based learning. The project-based learning component now is a little bit more challenging because so much of project-based learning is working in collaborative groups. And so now it's, okay, how are we working on a project but doing it independently, and then sharing it out in a collaborative setting with one another. But I think that the SEL is the reason why we're here, right? The reason why we're trying really hard to open up our schools isn't just the academics. In my mind, that's a secondary focus. The primary focus is meeting the social emotional learning needs of our students. And the best way we can do that is ensuring that they have at least 3 champions in their corner, starting with the teacher, the principal, superintendent, support staff, and so that they feel that they're loved and nurtured and that they can learn.
We really looked at our tiered interventions and our PBIS component within our schools, and we took that opportunity to reflect on their implementations and ensure that they were 100% in place. SSTs, you name it. So we really looked at those components and had committees together and looked at each other, and we asked ourselves, how can we provide the best opportunity for these kids when they come back? So human interaction, compassion on a daily basis, positive reinforcement, rewards for kids, connections with parents, reaching out. We've done home visits to distance learners to see how they're doing. It's a combination of a lot of things, Edgar. I mean, I would say it's just, it's not one program. It's just, we're looking at what we have currently and basically how can we improve them to meet the needs of both populations, our distance learners and our in-person kids.
Hey, Joey, let me ask you a question, because you broke your response a couple of minutes ago into K-8, if I remember correctly, and then the older students. From an infrastructure standpoint, we're talking about technology, distance learning, facilities cleaning, disinfecting. When you came in this year, what did that plan look like, and how has it evolved as the school year has moved?
Well, we looked at our custodial schedules. Our maintenance director has been phenomenal to work with, on this situation. It didn't look anything different as far as grade levels, because our infrastructures kind of look the same. We have one point of entry to all of our schools, which made it easier to conduct the safety checks in the morning and the disinfecting the classrooms on a daily basis. And then also our cafeteria schedules. For the most part, it hasn't been that difficult by grade level. What I was referring to in that particular question was a cohorting, and the social distancing was really the main challenge that we had as a district because of the flexibility in cohorting younger kids versus high school students. So as far as the cleaning, disinfecting, and all that, it pretty much looks the same.
One last question for me, for both of you, and we'll start with Amy. Just big picture. Obviously, the whole point of us having these conversations is so the field learns from shared experience. So given that you're, Joey, you guys have been at it for a little while. Amy, you, like we were talking before, you're right in the midst of the reopening plans and obviously having this become a reality. What general advice or insights would you give to those that are either close to that step or even in the planning phase, trying to think weeks and months ahead? Just words of wisdom or insight for your fellow administrators in terms of taking on this huge challenge. We'll start with Amy.
It is a huge challenge. And I think about when we started this journey, we started right when school got out in June. And it wasn't me. It wasn't just me and another person. It was me. And I opened it up to any teacher, staff member that wanted to be a part of a meeting at least once a week. And I was fortunate to have almost all my teachers join in on the team. And you might think, oh my goodness, that's a lot of people. How are you going to move forward in the decision-making process? Is it too many people? And, it was challenging, as we met and we worked through our plan. But, in the long run, it was so worth it because it was the teachers themselves that came up with this amazing schedule to meet both the in-person and remote learning needs of our students. And they said, we could do more of an independent study where we just do a check-in with the students that are doing the remote learning. It's only 10% of our students, but that's not good for kids. And we don't want to do that. So what is that going to look like? And so for me as a superintendent, to have that come from my teachers from the ground up is what makes a strong team, right? And so we spent, I would say probably at least 30 hours just fleshing out schedules and what that could look like for each grade level, and knowing who those students are, making sure that if there was a cohort of students that needed some extra intervention, how are we going to push in additional services? If they're a cohort that needs some more enrichment, how are we going to give them more GATE enrichment advance opportunities? And we really created a schedule to meet the individual needs of our students. And it was a lot of work. But at the end of the day, it's something that we can be super proud of, and to know that we can go to bed at night knowing that we really are doing a great job serving all of our students' needs. And lastly, this is courageous. This is hard work, right? And I will tell you, I would not lie. I will not lie to you and say there was one time where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, because community members can be really, really, really mean, right? And we have to have thick skin and keep on smiling and keep on going. Nope, I'm not going to let you derail me from the work that needs to be done, because this is about kids and this isn't about the adults. So being courageous through these times is really essential.
I think the biggest advice that I would give other superintendents that are looking at reopening is to create a really good relationship with the county public health department. That's imperative. And I just want to say that because they'll be your biggest support when it comes to any positive cases or contact tracing. You're going to rely on them to assist you in navigating the process of any kind of quarantine issue, and they will also support you with any information that you might need to be able to relay that information to your bargaining units, your board, your communities. So I would say that would be my number one, is create a good relationship with your county health department, kind of like what we have over here in Tehama County. And they've been phenomenal to work with, because really at the end of the day, it comes back to staying open, and that requires not having positive cases.
Joey Adame, the superintendent from Los Molinos Unified School District. Amy Alzina, the superintendent principal from Cold Springs Elementary School District. To both of you, thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you.
I think we might have lost Naj there, but I will finish the sentiment that just on behalf of ACSA, on behalf of everybody who's thinking about this work, just thank you for your service and everything you folks are doing to just get our kids back in the classroom. Thank you for being on today.
Yeah.
And we
thank you. It looks like my internet seems to be going off. My internet seemed to be going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were gone for a second, but we got you now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We'll have you back on the show at another time. See, Ed, this is what happens. You're out here in the country and you need that hanger to be able to get internet access. A couple of notes for those of you watching our show. We are not on next week. Edgar doesn't know that, but we are not on next week because we have ACSA Personnel Institute, the all virtual Personnel Institute, going on. If you miss us, that's fine. You should sign up for the Personnel Institute. There are so many things that are going on with human resources and personnel in this age of COVID. Sign up for that September 29th through October 1. It's going to be a really, really great event. It's going to be so good. And we had so many people. I talked about this yesterday in our senior directors meeting about the Edgar bump. And the Edgar bump was when we talked about personnel last week, we had 20 people sign up after the show. So apparently, Edgar, you can not only give people great news and information from the state capitol, but you're moving people to sign up for personnel.
I don't know if I deserve the credit, but you know what? I'll go ahead and take it. So thanks to those that signed up.
The boss will be happy with that. Also, Leadership Summit registration now open for that as well. You can go onto our website, ACSA.org/professional-learning. Register for both of those. Again, personnel coming up September 29th through October 1. And then Leadership Summit, November 5th and 6th. Both of them on demand, all virtual. Michael Kelly, who is the host of ACSA News and our ESS stories, will be anchoring coverage of the Personnel Institute, and then he and I will be handling Leadership Summit. It's going to be all kinds of fun. It's going to be exciting, so don't miss out on those. Edgar, big show today. Once again, we plowed through that 1:30 time frame, but a lot of good questions and a lot of really interesting best practices from Amy and Joey about what it looks like. Obviously, things, information that our members can use as more schools move towards reopening.
Yeah, like I said, it's exciting that the state has at least turned the corner for now, right, in terms of the COVID infections. And I think the headlines this week were that we were at an all-time low in terms of positivity rate. Obviously, the caution there is that we got to keep up the hard work with the social distancing, with the masks, with doing our part. So frankly, we can get our kids and keep them in schools, which we know is best for them. So, but exciting news coming from our members.
Certainly. Edgar, good seeing you today.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, Naj.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Remember, off next Wednesday. We're back the following Wednesday with more news and information from the state capitol, from CDE, and we'll talk about the Edgar bump and see if that can move more people towards personnel. We'll see how well he's done as far as Leadership Summit registration is concerned. Edgar, thanks so much. Thanks again, folks. Thank you for watching the Legislative Lunch Break. Have a great rest of the week.
See you guys.